Are you looking for a free API to scrape web pages for your AI apps? Let's discover Firecrawl, a free self-hosted API to crawl websites into clean data to feed your LLM with valuable information. In this video, we will combine it with n8n automation platform and Qdrant vector store to chat with our website. To start using Firecrawl, you can use their cloud version with a free plan of 500 credits or $16 for 3,000 monthly credits. Or you can self-deploy it by following their self-hosting guide on their documentation. You can also use a platform like ours, Elestio, to deploy it seamlessly on your server or the cloud provider of your choice. We handle the installation, backups, updates, and ongoing maintenance for you. To set up our Firecrawl instance, head to ls.io and click on Login. Then, because we don't want to only deploy Firecrawl on our server, we won't deploy a service, but instead we go to CI/CD. Then in the Docker Compose, which contains a lot of templates that are also used in the services, we search for Firecrawl and select it. Here it is. From there, you can deploy it on a new VM or on an existing one. Choose between the different cloud providers, regions, and service plans based on your needs. I will take a large one because we plan to install many things on it. And then next. Then you will see the final Docker Compose file. You can adapt it if ever you have specific needs. No worries, you can still do it later. Adjust environment variables, different advanced settings. Rename your CI/CD pipeline, let's say Firecrawl demo, and create CI/CD pipeline. Once the setup of our CI/CD instance is ready, we can go back to it, go to pipelines. You can see your Firecrawl if it's still in deployment or if it's deployed. And on the top right, deploy a new pipeline. We want to install two things. First, n8n. In the search bar inside Docker Compose, search for it. Then select and deploy on existing VM. Be sure it's the same one if you have multiple ones, otherwise it's selected by default. And then next. Again, you can adjust your Docker Compose or different variables and advanced configuration, then create CI/CD pipeline. Because our CI/CD instance is ready and running, we don't have to wait before it's finished to start another deployment. So go into deploy a new pipeline, search for Qdrant, select it, again deploy on existing VM, next. If you want, you can adjust advanced settings and rename it. Let's name it Qdrant Knowledge Base and create CI/CD pipeline. All right, I just received the email telling me that my n8n is deployed. I can open it. We need to enter our email password inside your pipelines on your instance. Go to n8n, n8n admin show, and copy the password, memorize your email, type it and paste your password, sign in. The first time you have this form, let's skip it, get started, and skip. All right, we won't cover in-depth n8n because we have dedicated videos about that. You can find them on the channel or links in the description. Let's create a workflow, start from scratch. And what we want to create is a URL scraper tool. So let's name it URL scraper. This way you can keep your workflows organized. And the first step will be a form. So in the list here on form submission, you have a test URL and production URL to test it in development and production. You can add some authentication if you want the user to type a password before accessing it. As I will kill the instance after, I can just keep it. And let's name it URL scraper form. You can add a description, scrape a web page into the knowledge base, and then the different form elements you want the user to fill. We can simply name it URL, the placeholder example.com/page, anything you want. It's a required field. We always want one. You can add more fields if you want to make it something that goes beyond just a URL, and then execute step. Because I'm in full screen mode, it's opening it in full screen. Let's type the URL and we will use the landing page of Elestio. Let's hit submit, submitted, perfect. We go back here and this is the output that our workflow will have. It will have access to the URL and all the different form elements you created. the date it has been submitted at, and if it's in test or production. Now we just have to create our other nodes of our workflow. What we want to do is we have the URL inside the item, inside the outputs, and we want to parse the content of this page using Firecrawl. So you could use Firecrawl API, the official node. You can select it and you will see crawl a website. If you want to use this, just know that it is only the cloud version available, but let's install it to see how it works. And currently they just changed their URL, so it's not working. So we won't be able to use it, and it's not a big issue. It's only if you use the cloud version, it makes things simple. But as we are using the self-hosted version, we need to use the API. It's not much complicated, but it's not out of the box ready like the official node. Let's click on plus. To do API call, we need an HTTP request. And to know what to fill here, which is the API request we want to do, we go to Firecrawl documentation, and we have the different features. What we want to do here is scrape, but know that there is also search, map, and crawl. But here we just want to scrape one URL to keep it very simple. You have the example on how to run it directly, but what we want is the API. So click here and it gives you the route. It's a post and /scrape. You can try it. You have a curl here with the different parameters, and you have the list of the things you can pass. Okay, we know it's a post request and it's /scrape, but on which URL? Their example is binded to the cloud version. It requires an API key. As we are using the self-hosted version, let's go back to our pipelines, go to Firecrawl demo, then display credentials, or even better, if we go to view instructions, it's what we receive by email. There is an example of the request. So you can take the whole URL. Well, we just want to stop here as we want to do a scrape. Let's paste it here. Okay. And then we need to pass the username and password. To do this inside the post request, we need to use authentication generic credential type, and it's a basic auth. You won't have to do it every time. You need to create new credential and type your user and password. Username will be root, and the password, copy it. Here, root, paste your password. And you can rename here the credentials. Let's say Firecrawl credentials. This way you have your credentials organized within your different workflows. Save, close it. Now it's on Firecrawl credentials. And we will need to add parameters inside the body. We need to pass the URL. It's what we have as a parameter. And also we want the type we get back. Where is it? Formats. So you can pass different format outputs. We will choose Markdown. It's the most simple to read for an LLM. Inside the JSON body, URL, and we simply drag and drop the URL outputs. It will replace it with Elestio or anything that is typed in the form, and another parameter, which is format. Let me confirm, yes, formats. Here we add an S, and then the value, it's an array of string. So to pass an array, we need to use a expression. It's a JS element. We do our array and we pass Markdown because you can have multiple ones. So here we have our array of string containing Markdown. Okay, let's simply test it. Execute step. And here we are on the right. You can see you have the full Markdown output of your website. Of course, you can check the documentation for some options on what to trim if you don't want the image, if you want to read the PDF, and many things. But again, we want to keep things simple. Let's rename the HTTP request as Firecrawl Scrape page. Okay. And then once we have the output, we will create an LLM chain. Here, LLM, basic LLM chain. We will use a simple prompt, so not the one that gets here, defined below. And from the output of the website, we will ask the LLM chain to summarize our website to do an FAQ. It will make things much easier to store them into a knowledge base and then to be able to chat with our website. Let me expand it, expression, make it bigger. Here is a prompt I prepared. You can, of course, enhance it. You are a RAG assistant tasked with generating relevant question-answer pairs for a vector store database based on website markdown content. Some rules: we want to generate 5 to 20 question-answer pairs based on the provided markdown content. Some more rules, and the most important, website markdown content. And here we pass the result of what we got from Firecrawl, which is the whole content of the web page in a markdown format. Okay, we have our prompt containing everything. We can close it, and we need to add a model to our LLM chain. You can use the one you prefer. For a matter of simplicity, I will use OpenAI. We need to create credentials. Here, type your API key. Okay, save. Okay, now we are able to use it. And let's try to see what we get so far. So here, execute step. So it will take the markdown and generate the output, summarize the web page. Okay, let's see what we have. It's a big output. Can I see it in a better way? Not sure, because it's question answer separated by new lines. So what is Elestio main service offering? It's a fully managed DevOps platform. Then which cloud provider does Elestio integrate with? You have the list of the cloud providers. You can see how well it summarized the website thanks to the markdown content and not the raw HTML we passed to it. Without Firecrawl, it made things much more complicated to have good results on your knowledge base later. Okay, we have our question answer. Now we want to store them into our knowledge base. Here we can add Qdrant, but I don't know why they have two different nodes. We will use Qdrant Vector Store, which is the one for LLMs. The other one, Qdrant, here it's if you want to do manual queries on Qdrant. You can use it if you want to delete things before adding them. Very useful. I won't do it in this video, but it will be useful to not add more and more content with the same URL. It would make duplicated content or any other operation. So let's use Qdrant Vector Store and add documents to Vector Store. We need our credentials. Let's go back to our target. Go to Qdrant knowledge base with the nice typo here. Qdrant dashboard. Okay, we have the URL of it. Let's copy. If you want to, we can open it, but before losing access to it, let's paste the Qdrant URL here. Then copy the password, which is the API key. Paste it here and test the connection. Save. Okay, it worked. So we have our connection with Qdrant. Now we can go back to Qdrant tab, paste our API key to have access to our dashboard, apply. Welcome to Qdrant. Again, it's not a platform overview of Qdrant, but let's open our collections. And so far it is empty. What we will do is store our documents inside our Qdrant collection, but we can't use from list yet because it's empty. Instead, by ID, and let's name it knowledge base. Okay, now for the embedding, we will use OpenAI because we already set up our credentials. It will be straightforward. And document default data loader, type of data JSON, load all input data and text splitting custom. We will need to add a text splitter here and a recursive character text splitter. We can keep the default chunk size and chunk overlap. Something we can do is on the data loader to add metadata to what we will save into Qdrant. So here, let's name it URL, and the value, we will use the URL we are scraping. This way, if we want to retrieve specifically a page, or if we want to delete the data before adding them again, we can do it easily using the metadata. Let's try to run it. Here, execute step, and you can see how it splitted our content inside different chunks. So it aggregated different questions, 1, 2, 3, 4 questions per vector. If you want only one question, you can make the chunk smaller, but it's not a big deal that it contains multiple questions. If we go back to Qdrant, now we can see a collection, knowledge base with 6 points. The last one, you have this question: what scalability option does Elestio offer for CI/CD pipelines, and the answer. And inside the metadata, we have our URL. Before running it on another page to expand our knowledge base, here instead, by using by ID to create the collection, we can use from list. And now we have access to knowledge base. So if we rename it, it will store it based on the ID and not based on the name. Okay, so let's run again the whole workflow from the start. Let's run it on another page. Let's say, okay, we run it on the CI/CD page, explaining how our CI/CD pipelines work. All right, the workflow is working. The crawl has been done. Now the summarize with LLM and storing it inside Qdrant. Let's reload our knowledge base and check if we have CI/CD points. Seems it is. What do we have? Does Elestio CI/CD support the use of custom domains? Yes. Okay, perfect. So we have created our first workflow to store page data inside our knowledge base. Now what we want to do is to chat with our knowledge base. So save it, create a new workflow. This time it will be a chat. First step on chat message. You can choose to make it publicly available or not. And then when you receive a message, you will talk with an AI agent. We can keep the default prompt. Let's connect OpenAI as the chat model. Okay, it's the same credentials. For the memory, we use a simple memory. And what we want to do is to add a tool. The tool we will use is Qdrant Vector Store. We will use it as a retrieve documents as tool for AI agent. It will be our knowledge base to answer user questions. It will use the one from the list, knowledge base, and you can choose how many points it will return every time the AI will use it. You can limit it to 4, to more or less. The more you use, the more it will grow your context and the number of tokens used. 4 should be good. Maybe it's a bit too much because we have huge chunks, but it will give it a nice context. Perfect. Let's try it. We can run the chat here, open chat. And what is Elestio? Simple question. And I forgot to add the embedding on the vector store. So OpenAI, embedding 3 small, the default one, and let's try again. What is Elestio? And this time it should work better. So it's using LLM, and now it's using the knowledge base to answer. And it's formatting the answer, and it's telling us what it is. It's a fully managed DevOps platform that enables the deployment of code and open source software. Okay. Let's see what did the knowledge base. The AI, it only asked Elestio because it was a very generic question. And the vector store database, it gives the 4 more related points to Elestio. So it's querying Elestio with a limit of 4 points. And it's giving the 4 points that contain questions related to Elestio. Let's try to ask a more precise question. What can I ask? Maybe about a software or a feature we have only in one of the page. Okay, we can speak about what it knows about Terraform. Let's try it again. Do you provide Terraform? Okay, LLM. Here it even didn't use the knowledge base because it had it in the memory and maybe in the previous point that it gets at first try. So here what we have is it supports infrastructure automation, including the use of Terraform. Let's try something else. Can I deploy CI/CD pipeline? But again, it replied without using the knowledge base because we have huge chunks. So we can try with a new session. Reset chat session. Does Elestio provide CI/CD pipelines? AI agent now asking Qdrant. Formatting the answer, and it's saying yes. Let's check what it got. And you can see here, it's getting points attached to the CI/CD page. If you want to dive deeper into Firecrawl, head to their documentation and discover the different endpoints available, deploy your instance and try them. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed discovering Firecrawl with us. Please hit the like button to help our channel be more visible to other open source lovers. Don't forget to subscribe to not miss our next platform overviews. If you want to continue your open source journey, watch this video, available here.